When I was 23 years old, all anybody wanted to ask me was, what do you do for a living? And what was my response? My response was, I do awesome. I'm Steve Armato, and I started this podcast to interview awesome people who build awesome lives. So now, let's do awesome. Aaron Eisman, welcome to the show, my friend. This has been a long time coming, it feels like. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thanks so much for having me on. And yeah, it is a long time coming, so I'm gonna enjoy this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, for background on this for everyone, we worked at Bleacher Report together, but in just different departments. And
Right.
We weren't really, I don't know if we knew each other when we were there at the same time, but then afterwards, when we both went our separate ways, we, connected and just started talking. And you're someone that I feel like I could come to and just catch up with advice,
Right.
business, and things like that. So what talk to me about the BR days, because we were there early, so let's go back, because that's kind of how you wrote a book about the evolution of sports social media, and now you
Right.
have your own social media company. So that I feel like is where it all began. So let's start
Right.
there. How'd you get into it?
Right. So when I came out of college, a journalism degree in 2013 from Indiana University. I'm from LA. Didn't really know what to do with it. It was kind of a you go this way. Is it was basically you get into sports writing, and that's what my passion was, working for a newspaper and becoming one day the LA Times sports writer for covering the Dodgers or the Lakers or some big team. And then the right side, the other turn, the one I took was more to work in social media, and it wasn't really a job career path at the time. So in 2013, 2014, where I started my career, worked for some small startup in New York City, went up and down really quick, but then I, uh, you know, landed a job offer in Turner Sports at Atlanta, and that was like the start of my social media career. And so working alongside guys like Shaq and Charles Barkley and Isaiah Thomas, Grant Hill, and numerous others I can name, great stories with all of them. It was just started my career in social media and showed me I can have a career path in this because I had a good ability to write and be creative. And then a year contract ended there, and then they transitioned me over to Bleacher Report and said Turner Sports owns Bleacher Report since
Right.
2012. I got a job offer to go move up to New York City and be a part of that first office, which was in near Carnegie Hall, or
Yes. Right.
that office, yeah.
Right.
The
That was 88. Was that 888? That
Yeah,
one?
that
Yeah.
was that one, and that was where I started. I was like employee, like the fourth employee in terms of like social media on the team. It was like me, Armand, and Drew and a couple others, Ryan, and they had it was a small team. And then by the time of like early to mid 2016, we had 20 plus people doing social media, and I was just a programmer, just posting constantly. But yeah, that's where career started at. Really took off at Bleacher Report, and I spent the next 2.5 years there.
So, Bleacher Report at that time too was something that grew really quickly, and you were part of the reason, you were behind that team, programming, all that stuff, right? So what did you take away, learning, what did that teach you about social media and how things grow and kind of take off?
Right, right. I learned that social media is more than just an intern posting every day. Like it's more than just like, hey, like let me find some cool content, let me just push out on social. There's a lot more behind it that I learned that helps me today. I learned that social media is branding, it's strategy, content creation. There's posting and community management involved into this. Monetization now, big money, big billions of dollars being sent through social media every year. There's everything from like analytics and like how the numbers work. I mean, it's really there's in-depth parts of social media that takes more than just an average person doing it off the street. And that's what I think that the industry was initially was anyone can do it, a PR person, a marketing person, but now there's a certain level of you need to be talented and creative and do a certain thing a certain way so that you can be successful in social media. So it just taught me the foundation of how to be successful in social media and the types of people that you need to be successful. And sometimes like, you need to be like a Swiss Army knife. You need to be able to do like I can do copywriting, but I can also do graphic design or video editing if needed. I can do analytics reports. I learned a lot of that at Bleacher Report, which I'm thankful for that time.
Yeah, and you mentioned just now, analytics, which I think a lot of people don't really take into account when they look at stuff, because they people want to post content, and I'm sure you probably do a lot of this in your business, where like you have to look at the numbers and what works, and then
Right.
kind of and draft like or craft a strategy around that. Is that kind of what you do? Like, talk to me about your business. I know you do a lot of different things, like you just said, you're a Swiss Army knife, but talk to me a little bit about how you utilize numbers to help your clients, really.
Yeah, yeah, no, typically, I wrote, I'll talk about my book later on, but there was a chapter about content is king, which is Bill Gates wrote about this like essay to Microsoft employees, 1994, 1995, and it was really like insightful on what the future of content was going to look like on the internet, on TV, and other places. And now as you're seeing social media, being very content focused and driven, and then I always say content is king, analytics are queen. So whatever Bill Gates said, it's like the content is what your people are seeing and watching, but the analytics will tell you the story of how it's actually performing and doing well, or needs to be improved, or the strategy sucks, or whatever it is. So ultimately, when I work with a client, I've been doing this for 4.5 years as my own social media agency. We figure out that we build a foundation. The branding and strategy is like early on, like month one is like building and developing that. Then it turns into doing more of the content creation and developing what the content should look like. Is it graphic design? Is it video editing? Is it funny? Is it animations? Is it all, whatever? What is the content? What content buckets are we hitting? Which is something I learned at Bleacher Report, the content buckets. And then ultimately, like, yeah, it's if the content is doing well, the analytics should back it up. Like the numbers never lie kind of thing. Like I learned early on at Turner Sports, there's a saying of, this is my baseline of how something's performing. I'm overperforming or underperforming based upon my average engagement per post, which is a whole technical term that I love. But it's like, ultimately, it just depends on like, building up that strategy early on, constructing that strategy, executing a game plan, and creating the content, and then the numbers, will tell the story. And it'll either help you as me as being their client, or it could hurt us, because they might see it and say, we want to go viral more, we want more followers, we want more of this or that. And some of it's out of our control. We can do as much as we can posting and creating the best content as possible, and some of it is in our control. So it just depends on the client, but ultimately we just have fun with it, and push out as much good content as we can, and keep the client happy at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And is there, to you, is there something that goes behind going viral? Everybody wants to go viral. Is
Yeah.
it a strategy behind it going viral, or is it kind of like you just go viral and
Yeah, yeah.
that's it?
No,
Yeah,
no, it's a good point. Typically, like, it's knowing your audience, first off, like building a cadence and a algorithm with the audience so that they can kind of start seeing your content more often. Like, you want them to sort of, start to like your posts week after week, day after day. Like, some singles and doubles need to happen, using a baseball
okay,
term. Some of the singles and doubles need to happen before the home run or grand slam happens.
right,
So like, what that means is like, sometimes it's just got to be some good daily content that comes out that's doing well. Like, I know a lot of people right now are using like the algorithm to their benefit by saying a question. In the comments, people fill up the comments, they respond. That helps the algorithm for that company. Like FanDuel, I see, is doing it a lot with polls now. You can do it on Instagram, other things of that nature. So um, ultimately, yeah, I think there's not a specific recipe, but what Bleacher Report we learned is like something that is like going to stand out is doing a funny like pop culture meme that can translate into sports, or doing something that is like, creative and outside the box thinking, a jersey swap, a face swap, a popping up Pokemon and Dragon Ball Z out of the videos, like things that are relatable to your audience specifically, but something that's going to engage well, and you're building up that momentum and hype. And it could perform well, and sometimes it doesn't perform well. I mean, I think you can ask people on the Bleacher Report creative side. Sometimes they spent money on a video that took them a week to 2 weeks to create, and it totally, did horrible, and or didn't hit the average engagement, which they thought was going to get millions of views. And sometimes that they took something that took a day or two to make, or less than that, and it takes off and it goes viral. So it's it's part of the team behind it, the creative process, creating that like engaging content, and hopefully the audience engages. But like, it just depends on, the time, the trendiness of the actual video, how it looks and feels, and is it going to stop the scroll? I mean, I learned this from interviews with people for the book, is like, is it actually going to like hit somebody for the first couple seconds and then they just watch the whole video, whether it's 10 seconds, 20 seconds, or whatever long, or they're going to scroll right through it and then go to the next thing, and then they totally forget about your video. So, or
Yeah. Yeah, and like I've heard that, is it gonna stop the scroll? That's like a big thing. That, because really, if you think about it, what is the attention span, like 3 seconds? And
right,
you only
especially
have,
the young one. Yeah,
right, especially the young ones. So I like that, how you put that, like stopping the scroll. Is it gonna make them actually stop and pay attention? And do you, what type of clients with that, like, right? So what type of clients do you work with? Are you staying within the sports niche, or have you also branched off into different areas, maybe some different types of businesses as well? Because
right,
if you're stopping the scroll for sports, it's going to be a lot different than a small business,
right,
So
right,
what type of
exactly.
clients do you work with there?
Yeah. So typically, I'd say we've worked with 42, 43 clients in the last 4.5 years. And I would say 80% have been sports, but the 20 to 30% have been some non-sports clients that I've gotten through coworkers and other people that have sent people my way, or I get a LinkedIn message, say, hey, meet my friend. I have a law firm, civil trial law firm that I've worked with for a year. Really easygoing people. I just like post their news and do some thought leadership content, and they absolutely love what we do for them. I have a former dog TV star, a dog trainer named Tia Torres. We got from a friend of ours, Roland Harold.
Oh
So shout out.
yeah, yeah.
They had started a channel called Rabbit Reality, and I ran social for them for 3, 4, 5 months. And that was kind of cool, because I was like, they had the content, they just send it to me, and I'd schedule it all out and make sure it looks good on social. And yeah, we've done random things. We've done doctors, apps. We've done, all kinds of different things. I mean, it's honestly, it's like, I always see there's as like 6 pillars of social media success, and that's kind of what I mentioned earlier, like branding, strategy, content, posting / community management, the monetization efforts, paid social, as well as
Right.
analytics. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, it's fun to work with different clients and try out different things, and sometimes it's just a matter of who the client is and how, if they're a good person in general, is how long I want to work with them too, because it's a two-way street. They're paying me to do a service, but I'm working with them and making sure everything's running smoothly. So but 99% of the time we work with the right people, which is nice.
Absolutely. And that's key. Working with the right people is key to business in general. And it's working with people that you want to work with. So like,
Right.
if I would have a drink with you, I'd want to work with you. That's kind of like how I feel about
Exactly.
a lot of it, So now talk to me about where you've gone with the book, right? So the
Right.
evolution of sports social media. You told me, you said earlier you started at Turner in 2012.
2013, 2014. Yeah.
2013, 2014.
Yeah.
So you've seen it, like, now we're in like 10 year, you're at like the 10-year,
Yeah. This
11
is my
year
11
mark
years doing this. Yeah.
doing this. So like, talk to me a little bit about the book, and talk to me a little bit about, how sports social media has evolved over the last decade.
Right. Right. So, I well, first off, like, telling you about my writing history, I always wanted to write a book. It was like a goal of mine to check that box, write a book before I turned 30. And so 2.5 years ago, I started writing this book. And I did the book because I looked on Amazon and I researched like sports social media books. There was always like basic textbooks, like people that wrote one, and one is from my alma mater. That's like 900-page book that says like, what is Twitter and what is this and what is
Oh,
that.
wow. Yeah.
And I saw that, and I was like, there's no one really wrote about like sports social media in general, and like took that niche and like talked about how it's evolved over time, how social media has evolved over time with it. And so I kind of wanted to talk about it in a way, an interview that I interviewed over 100 people for the book, and I interviewed people that were, key stakeholders in the industry. I mean, I interviewed people from ESPN, the Jamie Horowitz. I interviewed Lee Steinberg's in the book. Uh, you know, athletes like Hunter Pence and JaVale McGee and Matisse Thybulle in the book. So it's like I interview a lot of like cool people for the book in different ways of sports social media, but the evolution of it is like learning about the platforms early on. Like Facebook was a big deal in 2014, 2015 still. Twitter was Twitter, not X, now what it is now.
Yeah.
It was very like nuanced platform. It was you can't do videos. It was just like it would be like back in the day, like going to Chipotle with my friends, and that would be like your 140 characters or whatever. Just
Yeah.
140 characters. Like it
Yeah.
was very simple platform, and it was good for live tweeting games. It was like live blogging in a small format. That's what a professor told me about a long time ago about Twitter when I signed up in 2009. And so seeing how things evolved, and then Vine, like to put it that way, Vine was a big deal for. I mean, I've been in two of the 3 billion loops clubs in Vine history and sports. I've been a part of two of them, Bleacher Report and Turner Sports. The third one being the NBA. But we would like constantly be posting on Vine. We'd grab something off a Snappy TV, a TV program, live TV, push it on Vine, and then like tweet it out and put it other places as well. So Vine was a big deal. So things have changed and evolved. I mean, there was Periscope and Meerkat for live, anything live you wanted to do, and then Facebook bought out Periscope, I believe.
Yep.
And things
Yep.
changed. I mean, I launched the Instagram account for NBA on TNT and NBA TV. I pushed the button. I launched the PGA social account a long time ago on Instagram. So just launching those accounts in 2015, seeing what Instagram could be. I mean, Instagram was let's post a photo, slap a filter on it, and call it,
Yep.
I used to make a joke about it. I was like, take a photo of a trash can with some graffiti on it, put a filter behind it, and just call it urban art is the caption. And like that's what it was. It was like using these like random filters on it. So things have evolved. The platforms have evolved. The people who use these platforms evolve. The consumption habits of the audience evolve. Everything changes and evolves. And the book tells that about ESPN, about Bleacher Report, about House Highlights and Omar Raja, athletes and how they've evolved in social media. It just shows the different perspectives of how things have changed over the last from 2012 till now, pretty much.
Yeah. Also, by the way, like lo-fi was the filter I used to use on
Yeah, that's a
on
good
Instagram
one.
all the time. Lo-fi. But no, and I like what you said. I like that the book takes you through a bunch of different stages too, and like you have heavy hitters in there that
Right.
that you interviewed, that you spoke to, and like I even remember when I was at Bleacher Report, like you mentioned JaVale McGee. When I was I was at BR, I remember he went viral a bunch of times because he had the tattoo of the mustache
Right.
on his finger, and I remember that like specifically. So I love that. I love that you took a niche and you really honed in on it, because like nobody's reading a 900-page book on what Twitter is, but sports, there's so many people interested in sports and social
Right.
media and putting them together. And now I feel like and do you see this? I see athletes more now building brands on social. Is this I feel like I've seen this more over the last decade than I saw my whole life. Like, yeah, okay, Jordan built a brand and Tiger built a brand, but now these guys are building their own brands. Like, what do you see? Where do you see that going? And like, you're big with NIL too. So where do you see that going with NIL and athletes in general and building brands on social?
Yeah, well, it's things have changed. I talked to Hunter Pence from the Giants, former Giants player, the World Series winner, I think 3-time World Series winner, and it was fascinating because he talked about how it was taboo at first. When he got into the league, all the older players like, why are you on social media? Like, you don't need to be there. It's for like kids and like not for athletes and stuff. And then he started to build a Twitter following, and then these athletes, the ones that were like against him about that, started coming to him and saying like, can you help me? Like, I want to learn how to build one in mid 2010s. 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
And so then it started to evolve, the evolution of social media. Like the athletes couldn't get their word out as much early on in the early 2010s. And before that, it was either they do an interview with a newspaper, a magazine, a radio station. That was their way of like getting out, their word, and their words can get misconstrued by the writers who are taking their words. And so having that access to kind of being almost your own media outlet where you can say your own feelings, you can break your own news, you can do whatever you want with it. It's good. And there's a lot of like power becomes with it, because like one of the chapters in the book is about how athletes messed up, and like there was the Kevin Durant with multiple burner Twitter accounts. There was there was Draymond Green and his Snapchat incidents. That's all I'll say about that. And then there was there was Laramie Tunsil with a bong, in a photo that ran out right before the NFL draft, and that got posted. So it's like there's these stories that like there's what a lot of power comes responsibility, whatever the quote is. Social media brings a lot of power to these athletes' hands, and they're powerful figures. Some of them, I mean, they have millions of followers. They can say one thing, and it could change the narrative of something.
Yeah. Yeah,
So like,
absolutely.
it's a lot of power, especially a lot of influence. Influencers that at that level of millions of followers have a lot of influence on their fans. They could say one thing or say, read this book, or I hate this person, whatever it is, and people can say, well, now I agree. I'm a fan of them. But in terms of your second part, NIL, it's like it's the wild wild west. I mean, I was almost thinking about writing my next book on that, because it's just totally like there's there could be so many under the table deals happening with like, post this, I'll give you a car, do this for me, you get seats at the courtside seats at the Mavs game. There's like, and then there's a lot of money involved. Like I think Deion Sanders said you have to spend like, I don't know, it's 20 million or something, or 30 million each offseason just to get the right players to come to your university. Like it's heavy money involved, and that's just to get the best talent. I mean, it's but for NIL, for like a regular like student athlete, they got to be aware of like the consequences with it if they do mess up and make a mistake, and they got to use it to their advantage when they are in college and they want to build a following. But yeah, with great power comes great responsibility. So yeah, definitely
Yeah,
that way.
absolutely. And to me, it's crazy because like I always felt like, to me, I always felt like college athletes should get paid, right? I always felt like they should get something. I thought they were going to come up with something along the lines of a universal stipend that they all get, almost like some type of salary that they get revenue from
Right,
wherever. And then they just went, just you guys go do whatever the hell you want, make money however
right,
you want, and that's it. Because I played, I didn't play at like LSU or something like that. I played baseball at Sacred Heart University. It's small
mhm,
D1. But even at that level, right, your job is to play sports. Like, yeah, you're supposed to go to school and stuff, but it's 6 days a week. Like, but like
right,
the sport is 6 days a week when you're in season. Practices could go up to 4 hours. That was like the time limit. So, and then you got to go to class, and then you got to do homework. I always
a lot,
felt like,
a lot.
yeah, it's a
Yeah,
lot. So I always felt like, all right, these kids need something. I just hated when I would see a kid, like kids, you would hear about kids on like big football teams, like at like Mizzou or something like that.
yeah,
He'd lose his eligibility because a coach gave him money to go home and visit his sick mom. Like a coach gave him money for his flight,
right.
like stuff like that, which I never thought was right. That never sat well with me, especially with the NCAA and how they do things. But again, I always thought universal stipend is probably the way this is going to go. And now, like what you're saying, it's just taking like a 180. Do you see it changing in any way anytime soon, or do you think it's just going to be like this? Because I feel like too, coaches, like a coach like Jim Harbaugh, who just won
Mhm,
a national championship,
yeah,
when they use like, you win a national title, you don't even need to do anything else. You could be terrible for the next like 8-10 years, and
yeah.
you'll still have a job. Now a guy like that jumps to the NFL, and I feel like things like that is the reason. Part of the reason for that is NIL. I don't know if you agree with that or disagree with that.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean it is. I mean, winning is everything in sports, right? Like you if you have multiple losing seasons as a head coach, like even my alma mater, Indiana University, like our coach was great for a couple of years, won 6, 7 games in a row, which is good for Indiana football.
Right.
And
Yes.
like and then like goes like the last 2 years wins 3 to 5 games a year, and he's done. They fire him and they bring in the James Madison coach, Kurt Signati.
Yes.
And so it's interesting because like you take advantage, you level up. That's what these players do in the transfer portal. You just say, well, I played at Oregon State, now I'm going to go to Mississippi State, or like Florida or somewhere. Like I'm just going to level up as much as I can. They're giving me more money. They're in a better conference than me. The opportunity is just better for me to play on the field more. I'm going to get out of here, and it's almost like a job at this point. Like somebody used to tell me a long time ago, like you can kind of go to a job for 9 months. You don't like it, go to the next one. You only need 9 months or a year to job these days on your resume, and then you just keep leveling up. And that's what it's feeling like with the transfer portal. I mean, you're seeing guys who are men and women who are fifth, 6 years in college just so they can reap as much rewards off of college as they can before they go into the real world. So yeah, it's NIL is definitely like I think in the future, like you were asking me, I think there's going to be some more crackdown. There's got to be at some point. There's going to be some big stories that come out that are going to be like, this is super shady. Whatever happened here with this
Yeah,
university? Then there's going to be a 30 for 30 on that university,
of course.
and all this on this stuff. But like, yeah, I mean, I think the NCAA will have there'll be some incident, something big will come out at some university, and about overpaying a player, paying them to play, or getting hurt to play, getting hurt and they didn't play, and there's a sports betting scandal involved. Something's going to happen. And that's when the NCAA is going to say every university, big university, needs to have a compliance department, and every deal needs to go through the compliance department or something like that. I think that might and will happen, and people then will hate on the NCAA, but it might make things just more above board. And maybe that needs to happen in NIL, or maybe some people are just totally against that and just say free willy, like let's have fun with it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess I don't know. I mean, at some point, I think something's got to change. I don't know, because like I mean, I just feel like a 19-year-old, 20-year-old kid who's a quarterback and he wants 1.5 mil to go to like Nebraska instead of
Right.
East Tennessee State, whatever it is, or even going from. I mean, Bo Nix, what did he do? He went from Auburn to Oregon. I don't know. I feel like something will happen eventually. Right now, maybe not. Everybody's having way too much fun. It's like the Roaring 20. It's like the Roaring 20s right now. So
Right.
we'll see what happens there. But I want to pivot a little bit here because as someone, you have your own business, and I feel like in business, relationships are key. So like how important have those relationships that you've built over the years been to you in business and just life in general?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. One of my key quotes that I used over the years is, maintain bridges. Build bridges, maintain bridges, never burn bridges. Because in sports, it's a small world. I mean, one guy said to me, you can always burn a bridge, but like in sports, you never know who that bridge leads to, who connected to who,
Right.
And then if you try to apply to a job at that company and someone says, I know this guy that you worked for, and the guy can't vouch for you, or the woman can't vouch for you, then you're SOL. You're
Exactly.
and you're left with your hands, and you're like wondering, like, I that was my dream job. I would have loved it, but you burned a bridge, and then it affected you later on in the career. So I've always tried to be nice to people, humble to people, like welcoming, transparent. Like I think it's a way people should be with each other. I mean, when you backstab each other in a way, like in sports world, and when you fire somebody or get rid of them or you lay them off, this or that, it's tough. It's business decisions, but it also could hurt the relationship. And so for me, I've always tried to like, I keep on my phone like these people that are my numbers that I want to keep in touch with. Like there's people that are text them once a week. Some people it's once a month. Some people it's let's talk every now and then. Let's find time. But I always have the people on my calendar that are people that are just great people to talk to. Message them, email them, text them, whatever it is. Just try to reach out every now and then and see what's going on in their life, because I can just tell, after a couple conversations, you just tell these are good people, and you want to keep them in your network as close as possible. And so, yeah, I mean, I've tried to do that as much as possible with my business, and it's helped me out long run, because like out of my 42, 43 clients, I would say 15 to 18 of them have come from people just saying, hey, Aaron, I'm a former coworker of yours. why don't you send them to this person? Roland Harold said, I'm working at this company. Why don't you do social media for us? And so it happens that way, where friends of mine have said, you got a business, can you help us out? Or my friend needs help on social media. And I'm willing to like at least take the call with anybody and everybody, just to see if there's some connectivity between what they want to do on social and what we can help them with. And so that's just helped me grow my business, is just always just be a good person at the end of the day, and be welcoming to others, and learn from others' experiences. And the other quote is, be a sponge. Like never, always be willing to learn from others that know more than me in the industry. I mean, you're amazing at the podcast industry, and I'd love to pick your brain about that. But like, that's not my forte, but I've had to learn it to get it used to it because clients need podcast help. So, it's at the end of the day, be a sponge, but also build bridges, maintain bridges, and don't burn bridges. Sports is a small industry, and people can all see your connections through LinkedIn now. So if they see
Yes.
somebody that you know, or you don't know, or worked in the same company as you, they can always say good things and bad things about you to X person, and you don't want to be caught up in the middle of that and affect your job career path at all.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And it's funny because you're working with him a little bit, but you've hooked me up with Hani um from Lens of Sport, and like we've
Yeah,
been we've had various talks about possibly working together in different things. So it's just like it's just you never know like who is gonna help you or who's available. And it's like, if something comes up, I feel like, especially with the way you and me like know each other, I feel
right,
like if something came up and somebody needed social media, like that's not my area of expertise. Like my area of expertise is content and podcasts.
right,
So if somebody came up with that, I feel more than comfortable passing them to you and knowing that,
right.
you're just gonna get the job done. Because also at the end of the day, you're great at what you do, but you're also a good guy, and that actually
Thank you.
that helps. That holds to me. That holds a lot more water. Like I'll like obviously you got to be great at what you do, but like that holds water to me. That you
Right,
people that are
right.
great
No, and I,
people.
I I had my mom on Long Island Medium's podcast, and
Yes.
that was super cathartic for her. So you got her on that podcast, and she like touched base with her father, and and like there was like things about like a red car, which the red Mustang, and my grandfather, who I never met, is his past was like really cool to like learn about in there. So yeah, and then I'll send people your way. Yeah, like you said, you're a good person. It's you do great at what you do at the podcasting world. And I tell people, hey, if you don't need my help, maybe you know someone who does, and you can refer them over to me, and I'm happy to give you a referral fee, or we can just keep going back and forth and send people each other's ways. And if you're a production agency, a production company, or a PR firm, or anyone else, feel free to white label my services. Just say we have a social media people in house or a partnership with somebody. Charge them what you like, and as long as I'm getting paid, I'm happy, and my employees are getting paid. That's all that matters to me is everyone's happy, and everyone doesn't feel left out of the project that we're doing as well.
There you go. See, you just sold yourself right there. People are gonna hear that and just start contacting you now. No.
I love that. I love that.
So
Hey,
let's
more the
let's
merrier.
exactly. So let's talk about this real quick. I know I'm running a little over on time, but we're having a great convo here.
Yeah.
Um, Here's what I want to know too. Do you have mentors, and is that something that you've looked at and are important to you? What's your outlook on mentors?
Yeah, I love mentors. I think I try to keep in touch with them every now and then. Some are busier than others. I think it's good to have like a consistent one, and then have ones that were in your past that help you in your career that you can reach out to, and they'll answer your call. Um, there's someone like Morgan Dewan, who was my first director of social at Turner Sports. But just every now and then, just like we'll reach out to her and just say, "Hey, how's it going?" Because now she's at Top Rank Boxing and like VP of brand or VP of content. She's got some high title there, and so someone like that, just how's it going? Like, how's your life? How's everything? I've got some questions. Like let's talk 20 minutes. Every couple of months or 6 months or whatever it is, and that's great. I used to use a guy, Peter Scott, who's chief strategy officer at Play Anywhere, which he used to work at Turner Sports as well. And when I was at Turner Sports, I would just go into his office and just ask him questions about his job was to think about like the future of technology and sports and all that stuff. It was so cool to me, and I got to pick his brain a lot. And I still do, and he's one of my clients now because I became I was like I used him as like a mentor in 2013, 2014. I reached out to him like last year, 2 years ago, and just caught up. And next thing you know, he's a client of mine now. So yeah, and there's people who have better experience than I have. The sponge mentality, I like to call it, I wrote in my book, is like to be able to learn from others. You're not the smartest person in the room. It's very cliche. You're not the, this or that. You might be talented and skill set into something that other people aren't in the room. But you should always be willing to learn from others around you. And so I've learned from other agency owners how to run an agency well. I've learned from marketing professionals and social media have more experience than me how to like run their their team and their staff a certain way so that they're getting the best results. So it's always good to have mentors around you, pick your brain for people around you and people that are just willing to talk every now and then. They don't have to be a weekly conversation or whatever, or be on your board, but they can be someone you can rely on when you do have the 10 questions that you want to get out and you want someone to talk to. That person's reliable and there for you, which is nice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, as somebody who works in social media a lot, basically that's your job, that's your life, that's your business. Do you take time to disconnect from technology a bit? And if you do, how do you do that?
Yeah, you have to. Honestly, it's like I'm a big travel person. Like I grew up watching the show Amazing Race, which I think is still on. It's been going for like 34 seasons, 35 seasons, I think now. And I even had my Amazing Race birthday party when I was 18 years old. We had 4 teams of
Nice.
4 traveling around Los Angeles doing all kinds of activities. So that was really cool. So traveling for me has always been a like uh, you know, way to express my need for like, getting out there and exploring new cultures and seeing new people. And luckily, I mean, I've been blessed and fortunate enough to travel to 22, 23 countries all over the world. And that's because I studied abroad in Barcelona. I travel all over Europe. I go to Asia, and I'll be in Thailand or Vietnam or other places all over the world, learn new cultures. So, and how do you unplug? You go to a place where there's a beach, or you can get a Mai Tai, or whatever drink you want. Like, just chill, turn off the phone, tell your work, put the work email that you're gonna be on this break. Have people around you. Like I have people on the operations side or the social media management side that can handle some accounts for me, and I don't have to worry, what's going on unless there's an
Hmm.
emergency, of course. But like ultimately, like you got to log off. You got to like tune out because if you get too invested in your phone, you're losing the time that you should spend with your loved ones and doing your time that you should rethink about things and think long term. And that's what I do when I'm with my family. We think long term picture. We turn off the phone. We have a nice dinner. We have good conversation, and I think that's sometimes lost in today's world. So if you can turn off your phone and just talk to someone for an hour, or be with your loved ones for a week and not have to look at your phone every 5 seconds, then you're doing something right, and that's gonna propel you long term and just give you better results later on in life. And that's helped me out, is every now and then take that hiatus of a week or a couple days, travel somewhere, go somewhere new, meet some new people, and get a brain refresh every now and then. It's not a bad idea.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yes, travel, I feel like travel's a must. So,
Yeah.
love that. So what does living an awesome life look like to you?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Awesome life is just surrounding yourself with great people. I think people get caught up with, and I've always say I want to build myself a digital legacy, not just a legacy. I want to leave something behind for my kids to know me more than just, I think there's a Macklemore quote that says you want to people to know you. Your name shouldn't just die when you go in the grave. Your name dies when people stop saying your name. And I think he said that in a song, and I thought it was powerful because it's like I want people to just keep talking about me and talk about things I did and the impacts I made on the world, because it's the money will dry up when you're dead, and
Right.
it's on your relatives, but the name of what you did and the impact you had on this world, you know, won't, hopefully. And if you did enough philanthropy, if you did enough giving back to the world, my mom will love that I was saying this, but like in Jewish culture, there's a thing called tikkun olam, which is repairing the world. And for us to repair the world is to help people around us. We come from privileged environments. So help people that are in need in your local community or city or village or wherever you're from. Give back, help people, make an impact. And doing awesome is just doing, treating yourself right and making sure you're respecting yourself and your time and your energy, and taking care of you, whatever. There's from Parks and Recreation, treat yourself. You can always have a treat yourself day. I think that's not a bad idea, but there's always days you can do to give back to the people around you and to make an impact. So that's to me is doing awesome, is to get some fulfillment, and excitement and reward inside from doing something of giving back. It could be opening up a door for somebody. It could be pushing the elevator door open while someone's running at it. It could be anything but it's at least just making steps to show the world that you're a good person. You can do good in this world, and good things will happen to good people. Hopefully, karma will work out for you as long as you help put in good and good into this world. They'll help Longfold in the long run as well.
I love that, man. That was beautifully said. And
Thank you.
now this is the big one. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Yeah, honestly, that's a good one. Honestly, I think for me, and this could catch me off track. To me, I love songs from Weezer. I like
Okay.
Island in the Sun or Island by the Sun. I forgot it's the song, but I love like just I've seen Weezer a few times, and I think they just got great catchy melodies, and it's a fun song to sing. And to me, if I'm singing to my wife in karaoke, it's anything Ed Sheeran related. So it's like
That's
songs like
fair.
Perfect, Thinking Out Loud. That type of genre is like I just love Ed Sheeran. So for my wife, it's Ed Sheeran. For everyone else, it might be Weezer or something like alternative rock.
I like that though. That's good. That's a good call out right there because it's totally different from like a big crowd and your wife. You know, it's the
Right.
different story. So I like where you went with that. Now let everybody know how they can find you and where the best place to find you is.
Yeah, first off, find me anywhere. I'm on Instagram, social media, A Siegel Eisman, ASIEGALEISMAN. But you probably tag me in there. But if you want to find me professionally, look me up on LinkedIn. I'm constantly posting, constantly interacting with people. Aaron Eisman, you can find me. And my company's Eisman Digital Consulting. So find me there as well. Give us a follow. And then at Eisman Digital anywhere, EISMAN. Digital is we're on Twitter or X, we're on Instagram, LinkedIn, and everything else of the above. And for two final things, like, hey, if you want to buy my book, it's on Amazon, Evolution of Sports Social Media. We sold over 400 copies in 2 years, and it's being used at 5 universities. So just a little humble brag there,
There you
but
go.
like,
I like that.
get the book, and happy to, if you send it to me, I'll sign it for you, and leave me a good Amazon review. And then finally, just if you need help on social media, reach out to us, eismandigital.com. Just revamp the website so it looks really good, and hopefully whether you're sports or non-sports and you need social media help, you can come to us and we'll be there to support you guys on social.
Absolutely, man. Aaron, thank you for coming on the show today. And also, congratulations. You'll be a dad any day now. So,
Yeah, when this podcast comes out, maybe I'll probably be a dad by then. So I'm excited. It's going to be coming next week, so we're very looking forward to it.
there you go. You might be a dad like on the day this releases. So we are gonna see. But man, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really appreciate the time, and everybody else. Thank you for listening. You guys have been awesome. We continue to grow this thing every single week, and we will see you on Tuesday.